Okay, so today we're starting with participial phrases. All right, now sometimes these are referred to as adjective phrases, and there's all sorts of types of adjective phrases, but basically it's called an adjective phrase because what a participial does is it describes something. Okay, a participial describes a noun, it describes a thing, an object, or a person. Okay, so participial phrases occur when a group of words led by an action word with an ing ending. Okay, now that's a key point. Okay, when a group of words led by an action word with an ing ending, okay, like running, listening, things like that, are working together to describe a subject or an object. Okay, that's the key. An action word with an ing ending, okay, is leading a group of other words, and they're working together to describe a subject or an object. You know, sometimes people will mistake these for main verbs, okay? Because they see an action word here, but just remember, use the delete test. All right. The thing about participial phrases, okay, you can delete them, and the sentence will still make sense. All right. So that shows us that this is an adjective. It's not a main verb. Okay. So an example. We watched the cars speeding down the highway. All right. Now, in this sentence, all right, my main verb is going to be watched. Okay. As a matter of fact, really what the sentence is we watched the cars. That's the real sentence here. Speeding down the highway, that's a participial phrase. All right. And the function of that, okay, the function of that is to describe cars. All right. But here's the thing. Here's how we know that it's not a main verb. That whole thing in red, that phrase, delete it. Okay. What we're left with is just we watched the cars, period. All right. So that tells us right away that speeding, it's not working as a main verb here. Okay. It's part of a phrase. It's part of a phrase that can be deleted. Okay. Now, the other thing that tells us it's participial, okay, so that speeding is the key word for that phrase there. Notice the ing ending at the end. All right. That's what tells us that this is participial specifically. Okay, now, notice one thing. A participial phrase, and this is true for other phrases as well, a participial phrase can incorporate other phrases like prepositional phrases. And this is usually the case. Like if we have a phrase that has a phrase within it, that phrase within is usually prepositional. Okay, so we watch the car speeding down the highway. So the underlined part, yeah, that's a prepositional phrase, but it's part of a bigger participial phrase, speeding down the highway. Okay. Participle phrases. It's almost the same thing. Okay, and it does function the exact same way. Okay, it's another adjective phrase. All right, describes an object or it describes a subject. Okay, the only difference is this. Okay, participle phrases, they're essentially the same as participial phrases. Okay, here's the difference. Participle phrases occur when a group of words led by an action word with a past tense ending. Okay, so usually that ed ending. Okay, like fastened or sorry, not fast. Let's see, wasted. Okay, loosed. All right, things like that. Okay, sometimes you have irregular verbs that don't have that, but a lot of times you'll see that ed ending. Okay, so an action word with a past tense ending, okay, is leading a group of words to describe a subject or an object. Okay, so it's the same exact concept. All right, it's just we have a different type of action word leading the phrase. So an example of what this looks like. It was a wonderful day filled with sunlight. Okay, so here, this is the participle phrase. Okay, everything in red there. Filled with sunlight. Now notice the word filled here. Okay, this is an action word, to fill something. Okay, it's past tense, has that ed ending. Okay, and it's leading the phrase. This is our marker. Okay, the rest of these words follow it and they're working with it. Now, what is it that this phrase is describing? Okay, well, it's describing day. Okay, it was a wonderful day filled with sunlight. What was filled with sunlight? The day was. Okay, so we know that this is just a phrase. We can delete it. Okay, we know that there's no main verb in there. Okay, if we do delete it, we're simply left with it was a wonderful day, period. Okay, so we know it doesn't have a main verb. We know it's just a phrase. It's just an adjective describing an object. Okay, any questions on the difference between these two things? They're basically the same thing. It's just that the word that leads the phrase, okay, have the words that lead the phrases have different endings. If it's ing, participial. Okay, if it's just past tense, participle. Okay, now the last type of phrase that we're going to talk about is what we call a gerund. Now, here's the thing. Gerunds also deal with those ing ending words. Okay, so we have to have it straight between what a participial is and what a gerund is. Okay, because it, like participial, it also deals with that ing ending. All right, so first of all, before we can talk about gerund phrases, just what is a gerund in general? Okay, well, a gerund is when an action word with that ing ending functions as a subject or an object. Okay, so an action word with an ing ending functions as a subject or an object. Okay, so for example, fishing is fun. Well, the main verb in that is. Okay, something is fun. Something's being described as fun. Well, what is that thing? Fishing. That's our subject. Okay, so in this sense, when we say that, when we say fishing is fun, okay, I'm not talking about fishing as an action right now. I'm talking about fishing as a thing. Okay, or so I should say, fishing's not functioning as an action right now. Okay, in this sentence, okay, it's not an action. Okay, it's the subject. Same thing down here. I like fishing. Okay, well, the verb is like. Okay, I like. What do I like? I like fishing. Here I'm using it as a direct object. Okay, but I'm still talking about fishing as a thing. Okay, that's the way it's functioning in the sentence. It's not functioning as an action here. Now, a gerund phrase is when a group of words following a gerund function as a subject or an object. Okay, so something like this. Okay, catching fish is fun. Okay, functioning as a subject. Okay, the whole phrase is everything in green there, catching fish. And again, notice it's starting with that action word that has the ing ending. I like catching fish. Same kind of thing, except this time it's a direct object. Now, bear this in mind. Okay, these words, okay, fishing, or then if I'm talking about the next examples, catching, okay, those words can still be action verbs in other sentences. Okay, again, everything comes back to how you're using them. So in this third sentence here, okay, we no longer have a gerund. This is just good old-fashioned main verb. Okay, Sam was catching fish. Okay, there it's a main verb. All right, it's no longer a gerund. We're not talking about it as a thing. We're talking about it as the action that Sam is doing. All right, so not a gerund. So the real point, phrases can function as subjects, objects, or even as adjectives, just like a single word. Okay, so for example, let's look at the examples for infinitive phrases that we saw yesterday. Okay, those three. We yesterday I introduced these as, here's an example of what an infinitive phrase is. Okay, great. So we know that everything in green is an infinitive phrase, but let's go just a step further. Okay, aside from being an infinitive phrase, how are these functioning? Okay, are they subjects? Are they objects? Are they adjectives? What are they doing? So let's take a close look at them. Okay, I've got the verbs already identified. Everything underlined up there is the main verb. So let's just look at the first one here. I like. Well, who or what likes? I like. So I is the subject. Okay, I is the subject. Like is the verb. So this whole phrase, this whole infinitive phrase, to run very fast down hills, any guesses? What's this functioning as? Subject, direct object, or an adjective? Let me ask you this. What is being liked? It's the whole phrase. The whole phrase altogether. Okay? The whole phrase is functioning as a single word, as a direct object. Okay? I like to run very fast down hills. Okay? That whole phrase working as a direct object. To think deeply about things can trouble one's mind. Okay, so again, main verbs already identified, can trouble one's mind. Okay, well, in this case, I can tell right away that the direct object is mind. Okay, if the action is trouble, what is it that's being troubled? Well, it's my mind. Okay, so that leaves me with this. What is the thing troubling my mind? Okay, well, it's the whole phrase working as one. Okay, to think deeply about things. So here, it's a subject. Okay, third option. Chelsea tries to get up early in the morning. Okay, similar to the first example. The verbs identified, tries. Okay, who or what tries? Chelsea tries, so she's the subject. Okay, and what does she try? To get up early in the morning. Direct object. Okay, so just a little test here. Okay, look at that one. On the mountaintop is a dangerous place to be. Okay, so first of all, what phrases do we see up there? Okay, well, for one, there's one at the very end. Okay, to be, that's a phrase. What else is a phrase? We have another phrase up there. It's one of location. What's that? On the mountaintop. Okay, on the mountaintop. All right, so now let's think about this. Okay, first of all, what is the main verb in this sentence? Remember our steps. Look for to be verbs, look for linking verbs, look for action verbs. Okay, so what do you guys see right away? What do we know is going to be the main verb up here? I'll give you a hint. The word be, okay, I hope you noticed it, but it's also got to in front of it, so we know it's part of a phrase, to be. So we don't have to worry about that one. So what else do we see? One of our six. What have we got? feeling shy today. That's all right. Is. Okay? Our main verb is. All right? So this sentence is really getting to the point that something is dangerous. All right? So what is it that's dangerous? It's the whole phrase. Okay? On the mountaintop. All right? So there's our subject right there. The prepositional phrase on the mountaintop is functioning as the subject of the sentence. Okay, just like a single word. Now, point of clarification, sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference between a direct object and the object of a preposition. All right, the more familiar you guys get with prepositions, the easier this will be. All right, so the key is recognizing prepositions. Also, when something is the object of a preposition, you'll start to see that it doesn't quite make sense when it comes to receiving the action of the verb. Okay, so if we look at these two examples, I drove my car. I drove through the forest. Well, in the first one, we have a pretty clear direct object. Okay, what was driven? Car, direct object. But the second one, if you ask that question, what was driven? Okay, well, sure, you'd assume a car, but the sentence doesn't directly say that. It doesn't give us anything that really works. That's because what we have here, we don't have a direct object. Instead, we have a prepositional phrase. I drove through the forest. Okay, so forest is the object of a preposition. Now, here's where we get into how this affects our writing. And this is the last slide. Okay, understanding phrases affects our punctuation in this way. Okay, so this is something I want you guys to start incorporating into your writing. Okay, anytime we have a long introductory phrase, 4 words or more, and that's the rule. Okay, 4 words or more. Okay, so anytime we have a long introductory phrase that doesn't function as a subject, there needs to be a comma after it. Okay, all right, so what you see down there, we have what we call introductory phrases. All right, some are prepositional. Okay, some are infinitive. All right, some are adjective. Okay, doesn't matter. Whatever type it is, if it's longer than 4 words, we put a comma after it if it's starting the sentence. Okay, so down in the valley, comma, smoke rises from the various chimneys. To leave a man behind, comma, that wasn't an option. Fearing for our very lives, comma, she led us through the passageway. Okay, so if it starts off with an introductory phrase, longer than 4 words, put a comma after it. That's the rule. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so we'll do a little review together here.